In this video tutorial, we will discuss about concept of object-oriented programming in C++ and also different features of object-oriented programming. In this video tutorial, we are discussing about object-oriented programming concepts. There is also another type of programming concept, that is procedure-oriented programming. In procedure-oriented programming approach, the entire program is divided into different functions or subfunctions. But in object-oriented programming, the entire program is divided into different objects. We will see what are the major difference between object-oriented programming and procedure-oriented programming in the next slide. First, we will discuss about the concept of object-oriented programming in C++. For that, the object-oriented programming actually divide the entire problem into a number of entities called objects. Then the data and functions we can build around these objects. In the figure you can see that we can divide our entire problem into different objects like object A, object B, object C, like that. And we can build data and functions around these objects. So you can see that each object contains data and functions, and also one object can communicate with other object. This concept is called as object oriented programming. Next, we will discuss about the basic concepts of object oriented programming. There are mainly 7 basic concepts we are going to discuss under object oriented programming. The first one is class, second one is object, third one is data abstraction and encapsulation, fourth one is inheritance, fifth one is polymorphism, sixth one is dynamic binding, and the seventh one is message passing. We will see one by one in detail with examples. One of the basic concept of object-oriented programming is class. Class is similar to structure in C++. That is, it is actually a user-defined data type which holds its own data members and member functions. The data members and member functions we can access or used by creating an instance of that class. So, it is also called as a blueprint for an object. For example, suppose that we are taking cars as class. Then you know that there are many cars are available in the market with different names and different brands, but all of them have some common features or properties like four wheels, speed limits, mileage, etc. So a car is a class, and wheels, speed limit, and mileages are their properties. So, as I told you earlier, a class holds data members and member functions. The data members means the data variables or simply variables, and member functions are the functions that is used to manipulate these variables. These data members and member functions together defines the properties and behavior of the object in a class. For example, in the previous case, we have taken car as a class. The data members will be the speed limit, mileage, etc. And then the member functions can be apply brakes, increase speed, etc. Next, we will discuss about the another important concept of object-oriented programming, that is object. An object is an instance of a class. That is, the importance of object in object-oriented programming is the class gets its memory allocated only after an object is created. Then how to create a class and how to create object, all these we will discuss in the next slide. Next, we will discuss about how to define class and how to declare objects. For defining a class, you have to use a keyword class before the class name. The class name can be a user-defined name. Then inside the curly brackets, you can write the body of the class that include access specifiers, data members, and member functions. We will see how to declare an object in the next slide. Next, we will see how to declare an object for a class. When a class is defined, no memory or storage is allocated for that class. If you want to allocate memory for a class, you have to create object of that class. Then only you can use the data and access functions defined in the class. For that, you have to create an object of that class. The syntax for creating an object for a class is class name followed by the object name. Then for accessing the data members and the member functions, you can use a dot operator along with the object. For example, if you want to access a function print name that is present inside a class, that can be accessed by using the object of that class. Suppose obj is the name of the object. Then the function print name can be accessed by using the dot operator along with object obj. So the syntax is obj dot print name of. That will allow you to access the function print name from that class. Accessing data members of a class depends on the access control of that data member. That means the access control is based on the access modifiers or access specifiers. There are mainly three access modifiers or access specifiers are there. First one is public, second one is private, and third one is protected. First we will discuss about public access specifier or a public access modifier. If you are declared your data and functions under public access specifier, you can access your data member and member functions anywhere in that program. That means you can access your data and functions inside that class, outside that class, that can also accessed by other classes. All these are possible. Then that can be done by using the dot operator along with the object of that class. So in the case of public access specifier, you can access your data member and member functions anywhere in that program. Next is private access specifier. If you are declared your data member under private access specifier, that can be accessed only by the functions inside that class, that is the member functions of that class and also the friend functions of that class. That means these data members are not allowed to access by any object or functions outside that class. That is only accessible inside that class by the member functions of that class, and also a front function can also access that data members. Then next is protected access specifier. If you are declared your data member under protected access specifier, it is almost similar to the private access specifier or private access modifiers. The difference is that if you are declared your data member inside protected access specifier, that can be accessed by any member functions of that class and also the member functions of any derived class of that class. That means the protected data members are not accessible to outside of that class except the subclass or derived class of that class. Another important concept of object-oriented programming is data abstraction and encapsulation. First, we will see what is data encapsulation. The wrapping up of data and functions together in a class into a single unit is known as data encapsulation. Here, the data is only accessible to the function which is wrapped inside that class. It is not accessible to the outside world. These functions provide the interface between the object's data and the program. This insulation of data from direct access by the program is called data hiding or information hiding. Then comes the data abstraction. This is the way of representing essential features without including the background details. That means it will include only the essential features by hiding the background details. That is called as data abstraction. Classes uses the concept of abstraction. The fourth important concept of object-oriented programming is inheritance. First, we will see what is inheritance. Deriving a new class from an existing class is called as inheritance. The old class or the existing class is called as base class, and the new class which is derived from the existing class is called as derived class or subclass. If you want to use the data member and member functions of an existing class in a new class, instead of writing new data member and member functions all over again, the programmer can make a bonding of the new class with the existing class so that the new class can access or use the data members and member functions of the existing class. This property is called as inheritance. That is, the new class should inherit the members of the existing class in such cases. It is also possible to derive a new class from more than one existing class. That means it can inherit data and functions from multiple base classes. This concept is called as inheritance. The fifth important concept of object-oriented programming is polymorphism. Polymorphism means the ability to take more than one form. That means an operation may exhibit different behavior at different instances. The behavior may depend upon the type of data used in that operation. For example, if you consider an operation addition, if you are going to add two numbers using plus operator, it will give you the sum. Suppose your operands are strings, so you are going to sum two strings by using the operator plus. The result of this operation will be a concatenated string. So the operator plus behave in different ways if the operands are different. This process of making an operator to exhibit different behaviors in different instances is known as operator overloading. This is one kind of polymorphism. Similarly, we discussed function overloading earlier. Another example of polymorphism is function overloading that we have already discussed under function overloading section. Here we will see one more example for function overloading. In function overloading, here we have a function draw that will draw circle, box or rectangle based on the object you are used for calling that function. If your object is circle object, it will draw a circle. If your object is box object, it will draw a box. If your calling that function by using triangle object, it will draw a triangle. So this way a function can behave in different ways based on the object you are using. This is called as function overloading, and this is a kind of polymorphism. Another basic concept of object-oriented programming is dynamic binding. Dynamic binding means linking of a procedure call to the code to be executed in response to that call. That means the code associated with a given procedure call is not known until the time of call at runtime. Is also associated with polymorphism and inheritance. Next, we will see another concept of object-oriented programming, that is message passing. In the case of object-oriented programming, the entire problem is divided into different objects, and this object can communicate each other. The process of programming in an object-oriented language involves some steps. They are: the first step is creating classes that define objects and their behavior. The second step is creating objects from class definitions. Then the third step is establishing communication among objects. A message for an object is a request for an execution of a procedure, and therefore it will invoke a function in the receiving object that generates the desired results. The message passing involves specifying the name of object, the name of the function, and the information to be sent. The major difference between procedure-oriented and object-oriented programming are: the first difference is, in procedure-oriented programming, the program is divided into small parts called as functions. But in object-oriented programming, the program is divided into small parts called as objects. Then second difference is, in procedure-oriented programming, importance is given to functions rather than data. But in object-oriented programming, importance is given to data rather than procedures or functions. In procedure-oriented programming, it follows top-down approach, but object-oriented programming follows bottom-up approach. In procedure-oriented programming, it does not have any access specifiers, but in object-oriented programming, we have three access specifiers: public, private, and protected. In procedure-oriented programming, data can move from one function to another function freely in that system. But in object-oriented programming, the objects can move and communicate with each other through the member functions. The next difference is, in procedure-oriented programming, adding new data and function is not so easy. But in the case of object-oriented programming, we can add data and functions easily. In procedure-oriented programming, most functions uses global data for sharing that can be accessed freely from function to function in the system. But in object-oriented programming, data cannot move easily from function to function. It can be kept public or private, so we can control the access of data. Procedure-oriented programming is less secure, but object-oriented programming is more secure as compared to procedure-oriented programming. In procedure-oriented programming, overloading is not possible. But in object-oriented programming, we can perform function overloading and operator overloading. The example for procedure-oriented programming languages are C, VB, Visual Basic, Fortran, Pascal, etc. Then example for object-oriented programming are C++, Java, VB.NET, C#.NET, and most of the modern programming languages are object-oriented. The major application areas of object-oriented programming are real-time system, simulation and modeling, object-oriented databases, hypertext, hypermedia and expert text, AI and expert systems, neural networks and parallel programming, decision support and office automation systems, SIM, CAM or CAD systems, etc. This is the end of video tutorial of basic concepts or features of object-oriented programming in C++. Thank you.